During my rut, I slept with a stunningly beautiful Omega. With his eyes rimmed red, I offered to take responsibility. He bit his lower lip and reluctantly agreed. But why, 2 months later, is my stomach slowly getting rounder? I'm supposed to be the handsome, dashing villain Alpha. The rich scent of freesia hung in the air like heavy cotton, soaked in warm mist, thoroughly clogging every airway in the suite. That supposedly faint fragrance was now so thick it felt almost sticky, completely enveloping Cole's lingering, crisp citrus pheromones. It was as if a frozen fruit peel was being smothered into a feverish sweat by this irresistible heatwave. Rubbing his pounding temples, Cole shot up from the messy bed. His rut had spiraled completely out of control last night. All he could remember was pinning an Omega beneath him. His gaze cut through the dim light, landing on a figure curled up in the corner of the blankets. It was Alfred. His eyes were flushed red, and heavy droplets clung precariously to his thick eyelashes, looking like a delicate flower mercilessly ravaged by a storm. That is, if you completely ignored his broad, sturdy back that rivaled most Alphas. Seeing Alfred's trembling fingertips and the redness at the corners of his eyes, Cole's heart gave a sharp tug. Guilt and helplessness instantly washed over his face. Look, I'll take responsibility. Cole straightened his back, speaking rapidly. My name is Cole. I'm the heir to the Shanghai Group, a student at S University, and I run my own club. Will you be my Omega? Whether you agree or not, I will make this right. Alfred bit his lower lip, his handsome brows furrowed in grievance, his voice thick with a nasal tone. My innocence is gone. What Alpha would ever want me now? I have no choice but to stay with you. The moment the words left his mouth, he threw himself into Cole's arms like a collapsing statue. Cole let out a muffled grunt from the impact, clumsily patting the man's back. The sensation beneath his palms was as hard as sculpted marble. The muscle definition was almost abrasive against his hands. Cole's facial muscles stiffened for a second, his eye twitching slightly. Why does he feel more rugged than I do? He quickly shook his head, pushing the absurd thought away. This wasn't the time to be picky. He cleared his throat, his gaze resolute. Don't worry. I'll treat you well. The massive frame in his arms paused slightly. Alfred lowered his long eyelashes, a soft curve tugging at his pale pink lips. The smile blooming on that handsome, chiseled face actually left Cole, and Alpha, feeling a little intoxicated. I'll trust you for now, Alfred hummed with a touch of haughtiness. Cole's heart melted into a puddle, and he couldn't help but squeeze the man's fingers. Getting dressed and standing up, Cole grabbed Alfred's hand. The sheer thickness of the fingers sent a momentary pause through him. He traced that astonishingly large hand up the long, muscular arm, lifting his gaze higher and higher still. At 6'1", Cole found himself tilting his chin up, staring blankly at the fragile Omega standing before him, who had to be at least 6'3". The air fell into a bizarre silence for 2 seconds. He hadn't noticed it when the guy was curled up in bed, but how was this Omega built like a panther ready to pounce? What's wrong? The corners of Alfred's eyes instantly flushed again, his mouth turning down in a pout. Do you think I'm too tall? I know I'm not like a traditional Omega. Ah. No. Cole broke into a cold sweat, waving his hands frantically. Why would I mind? Being tall is great. You can protect yourself. Alfred lowered his head, his pale lips stubbornly pressed into a line, recounting a tragic backstory of a gambling father and a mother who passed away early. Cole felt his eyes well up listening to it. He slammed the table and roared, Do you want to go to college? I'll make it happen. Alfred immediately buried himself into Cole's neck, deeply moved. His tall frame curled into a ball as he greedily inhaled the crisp citrus scent lingering on Cole's skin. Inside the club, a row of lackeys craned their necks, staring dumbfounded at Alfred, who stood there looking like a massive bouncer. They stammered, "B-boss, isn't your Omega a bit too tall?" Cole shielded Alfred like a protective mother hen, eyes wide with anger. "What do you know? Tall and sturdy means hes healthy." The lackeys nodded furiously, while Alfred hid behind Cole, looking down with a shy smile. After touring the club, Cole moved Alfred into his penthouse. Despite the accidental start to their relationship, Cole was extremely satisfied with Alfred. Alfred was domestic and gentle, keeping the house absolutely spotless. He attended classes diligently during the day and made soup and cooked for Cole at night. When the club employees started teasing and asking for a taste, Alfred actually cooked for them. They couldn't stop praising the food, clamoring for more next time. Cole got jealous. He forbade Alfred from cooking for anyone else. Alfred coaxed Cole with a smile. Okay, I'll only cook for you. Under the warm, yellow bedside lamp, a well-fed Alfred leaned in like a large feline. His lightly calloused thumb gently brushed against Cole's Adam's apple. His feverish breath, carrying a trace of clinging freesia, fanned across Cole's ear. The cool citrus scent began to heat up under the teas. Just as Cole's throat bobbed and he prepared to flip them over and pin the man down, Alfred pressed 2 long fingers lightly against Cole's chest, his gaze lowering. Cole sat up immediately, forcing down the burning heat in his eyes. His heart ached as he pulled the man into his arms, gently patting his back. It's okay, baby. You haven't stepped out of the shadow yet. Well, take our time. That warmth came to a screeching halt at the dinner table one day. Cole had just scooped up a spoonful of chicken soup when an indescribable wave of nausea rushed straight to his head. His face turned pale. Clamping a hand over his mouth, he bolted to the bathroom, dry heaving violently over the sink. The next day, in the hallway of the downtown hospital, Cole was being half dragged, half carried forward by Alfred, who had a tight grip on his arm. Around the corner, a doctor in a white coat walked toward them. The moment their eyes met, the doctor's expression morphed into someone who had just seen a living zombie in broad daylight. His pupils trembled, his jaw practically dropping to his chest. Cole frowned, looking in confusion at the overly dramatic doctor. What he didn't notice was that behind him, the same Alfred who had been clinging to him affectionately a second ago, now had a chilling, dark gleam surging in his eyes. That originally soft freesia pheromone instantly twisted into invisible, barbed vines, locking onto the doctor's throat with an inescapable magnetism. The doctor shuddered violently, a cold sweat instantly soaking his back. He forced a stiff, agonizing smile, moving his arms and legs awkwardly as he shuffled over. What a coincidence! Henry, Alfred's middle school alumni. So it was his baby's alumni. Cole's face cleared in realization, and he immediately flashed a friendly smile. Henry, meanwhile, avoided Alfred's gaze entirely, his hands shaking and sweat pouring down as he drew Cole's blood. The fluorescent lights in the hallway were piercingly cold. An hour later, Henry walked out holding the medical report. His face was twisted as if he had swallowed a handful of bitter roots, his hesitant gaze darting back and forth across Cole. Cole's heart instantly jumped to his throat. His crisp citrus pheromone rippled with a sour edge fueled by sheer panic. What on earth is wrong? Alfred stepped half a pace forward, his tall, imposing figure perfectly shielding Cole. Henry swallowed hard. Enduring that invisible, needle-like domination, he stammered, Nothing. But you had that chicken soup too, right? Come on in, let's draw your blood as well." The laboratory door clicked shut, locking from the inside. The blinds sliced the sunlight into harsh, cold lines. Alfred leaned lazily against the back of the chair. Where was the fragile, helpless Omega from before? The mild freesia scent instantly tore off its disguise, tightly strangling every inch of air in the cramped room. The overwhelming presence made the back of Henry's neck go numb, cold sweat once again soaking through his white coat. "Are you sure?" Alfred arched a brow, a crazed and deeply euphoric dark gleam flickering in his profound eyes. 100%. The HCG levels are off the charts. Henry lowered his voice in a frantic panic, looking at him like he was a monster. Good God. An Enigma can actually make an alpha pregnant. Alfred's face turned cold. He unhurriedly rubbed the edge of the desk with his thumb, his tone as sharp as a blade. "Forge me a diagnosis for anemia. If you dare say a single word more about anything else, try me." Looking at this apex predator in sheep's clothing, Henry wiped a heavy bead of sweat away. "You put on a great act, but a growing stomach waits for no one. How long do you plan to hide this? Mind your business." Anemia? Cole looked at the diagnosis slip in his hand, almost failing to hold back a laugh. He yanked up his sleeve, forcefully flexing the smooth, tight muscles of his forearm. "With a physique like mine, how could I possibly be anemic?" No arguing, Alfred instantly hid the icy darkness in his eyes, swapping it for a look of deep concern. The freesia scent shed its coldness, turning into a dense net of damp warmth, completely and undeniably wrapping up Cole's senses. "I thought it was strange too, but whatever the doctor says goes. We have to listen." Looking at those slightly drooping, tear-glistening eyes, Cole surrendered instantly. All right. Ill, listen to my baby. After leaving the hospital, Alfred treated Cole even better. He specifically changed the menu, cooking meals that were both blood-nourishing and delicious, drastically reducing Cole's nausea. Alfred also bought Cole thick cotton clothes and slippers. Cole used to rough it out, wearing t-shirts outdoors even in the fall. Now, with a wife looking after him, he actually enjoyed the feeling. Alfred also banned him from drinking and smoking, saying it was bad for his health and that he hated the smell. Cole thought to himself, my baby treats me so well. Of course Ill listened to him. In front of the floor-to-ceiling mirror, Cole turned sideways, pinching his no longer flat, even slightly rounded lower abdomen, his brows pulling tightly together. Baby, have I gained weight recently? This won't do. I need to get a gym membership and start doing extra reps. Before he could finish, a broad, feverish chest pressed seamlessly against his back. Alfred's arms wrapped around Cole's waist from behind, his chin resting affectionately against that chiseled neck. The rich scent of freesia surged out relentlessly like a rising tide. Carrying a subtle, heavy sweetness, it pushed its way into Cole's glands with an undeniable force. It's perfect like this. Alfred's husky voice vibrated against his ear. His warm thumb, separated only by the cotton shirt, traced faint circles over Cole's slightly protruding stomach. I like you a little softer. It means you're well taken care of. The touch sent a microscopic electric current, shooting up his tailbone straight to his brain. Sedated by the high concentration of pheromones, Cole's breathing grew heavy. He turned his head, laughing as he bumped against him. No way. At this rate, you'll be the only one with abs, and mine will be gone. The two playfully wrestled their way onto the massive king-sized bed. Cole pressed his knees dominantly against Alfred's sides and leaned down. His slightly sweaty palms pinned those astonishingly large wrists above the pillows. The crisp citrus scent erupted with the primal aggression of an alpha. Resting against Alfred's ear, his voice was husky and enticing. Baby, we haven't. In a long time. The giant Omega pinned beneath him darkened his gaze. The freesia scent instantly turned thick and blistering, as if trying to ignite the air. But he merely fluttered his eyelashes, apologizing softly. Next time, Cole? I'm not really in the mood. A flash of disappointment crossed Cole's eyes. He let go immediately, lying back down gently beside him. It's okay, baby. The next second, the world spun. Alfred's towering figure rolled over him. His broad hand slipped past Cole's waistband, a sly gleam flashing in his eyes. I have other ways to make you feel good. Don't go to the gym. You're so cute like this. Those hands wandered slowly over his lower abdomen, carrying a spellbinding magic. The dense freesia thoroughly stripped away Cole's reason. His eyes glazed over, and he murmured hoarsely, as if drowning. Okay. During the day, at the club bar, Jim, one of the lackeys, picked up the pill bottle from the table, his eyes practically bulging out of his head. Boss Cole, you're taking folic acid? My sister only took this when she was pregnant. You're not expecting, are you? And that stomach of yours. Get lost. Stop messing around. Cole kicked him with a laugh. I'm a pure-blooded alpha. These are nutritional supplements my baby specifically got for me. Despite his scolding, a strange sweetness rippled through Cole's heart. Suddenly he missed that gentle freesia scent like crazy and decided to leave work early and head home. However, pushing open the front door, he was greeted by a deathly silent room. Baby? Baby. No response. Calls went unanswered, messages were unread, and even his classmates said he never showed up for his afternoon lectures. Anxiety tightened around Cole's heart like a thorny vine. The cold citrus pheromones clashed chaotically through the empty penthouse. Until Henry showed up at his door. He went to see the benefactor who funded his family. The benefactor is critically ill. He left in a hurry and forgot his phone. Henry's eyes darted away, his words tumbling out rapidly. He borrowed someone else's phone to contact me, told me to tell you not to worry and to make sure you take your medicine. Cole froze in place. His intuition screamed that something was bizarrely wrong, but he couldn't put his finger on it. Then why didn't he call me directly? After a grueling 20-second dead silence on Henry's phone, a familiar voice finally came through the receiver. Cole, sorry. It happened so suddenly. The voice was heavy with hoarseness and exhaustion, filtering through the static. The moment he heard that voice, Cole's tense jawline abruptly relaxed, his eyes inexplicably stinging. It's fine. I know everything. Focus on handling things over there. Let me know if you need anything. On the massive king-sized bed, the chill of losing Alfred soaked through the bedding like ice water. Cole could only curl up on his side like an insecure shrimp, one hand protecting his faintly aching lower back, the other piling over a dozen of Alfred's oversized button-ups over his head. The lingering freesia scent on them was already fading. It was no longer that dense, warm net, yet it still made Cole greedily bury his nose deep into the fabric. He was even comically wearing Alfred's absurdly large cotton socks. A sudden wave of inexplicable sourness hit his nose, and a tear rolled down Cole's eye without any warning. He haphazardly wiped his reddened eyes, grinding his back teeth. Damn it, he was an S-rank alpha. How did he end up acting as pitiful as a nesting Omega? He had rushed out today and forgotten to take his special vitamins. By quitting time, the harsh fluorescent lights in the underground garage were swaying wildly in his vision. An intense feeling of weightlessness slammed into the back of Cole's head like a sledgehammer. He immediately reached out, desperately gripping the rough concrete pillar. His knuckles turned white, and his vision doubled. Through the blur, a few pairs of custom leather shoes stopped in front of him. Looking up, he saw Gabriel's nauseating face. Well, it's a small world. What? Drunk in broad daylight? Gabriel arrogantly reached out, slapping Cole's pale cheek hard. Bang! Cole threw a heavy punch without hesitation. Gabriel's face jerked backward, and he stumbled in retreat, spitting broken teeth and crimson fluid onto the ground. Clutching his swollen cheekbone, he roared with a twisted face. What the hell are you all standing around for? Get him. Cole instinctively tried to release his S-rank pheromones to suppress the opposition, but the gland at the back of his neck felt like a dried-up well, transmitting only a frantic burning ache. The normally ice-cold citrus scent was incredibly thin, emitting a sour weakness, completely devoid of its aggression. A few bodyguards lunged forward, pushing through the faint pressure. Cole forced himself to throw punches, but his limbs felt as heavy as lead until a cold, hard metal pipe was jammed mercilessly into his lower back. Hands up. Gabriel raised a gun, pulling his lips into a sinister grin. Now, beat the living hell out of him. Heavy combat boots rained down on him. Cole curled up in agony on the freezing concrete floor until a lackey suddenly stopped, terrified. "B-boss, why is there redness on his leg?" Gabriel arched an eyebrow bizarrely. Just as he crouched down to stare at the glaring dark fluid seeping through Cole's pant leg, Cole's snapping nerves finally gave out, and he passed out completely. Gabriel clicked his tongue in disappointment. That's not right. An S-rank alpha goes down after 2 kicks? Get him to the hospital. The potent smell of disinfectant pierced his nose. As soon as Cole opened his eyes, he was pinned hard against the hospital bed by 2 bodyguards, the cold barrel of a gun pressed directly against his temple. Gabriel was holding a lab report, laughing so hard his shoulders shook maniacally. "Cole, you, an alpha, are actually pregnant? What kind of freak are you?" "Impossible." Cole's eyes nearly split open in rage, veins bulging on his neck. He violently struggled to sit up, only to be roughly shoved back into the pillows. His chest heaved violently as the ECG monitor let out a piercing alarm. Gabriel leaned in, bringing a malicious, foul wind with him. "Tell me, which alpha knocked you up?" "But I actually have a new game in mind." He threw a glance at the bodyguards behind him, a vulgar, dark light flashing in his eyes. "Cole's got a nice face. You guys haven't had a taste of an alpha yet, have you? Record the whole thing. Randy is going to be absolutely sickened when he sees it." The moment the words fell, a blinding red dot crept onto Gabriel's arm like a ghost. "Boss, watch out." Crash. The bulletproof glass shattered into a massive spiderweb. A bullet precisely obliterated the bodyguard's shoulder blade, a mist of crimson spraying across Gabriel's pale face. Terrified, his legs gave out, and he collapsed to the floor, cold sweat instantly soaking his shirt. The next second, the hospital room door was kicked open. A row of heavily armed men dressed in black sealed the room like the Grim Reaper. Through that dark forest of guns, Alfred stepped over the threshold on his long legs. His handsome face, usually wearing a shy smile, was now covered in a terrifying layer of frost. With his entry, an utterly horrifying wave of freesia erupted. It was no longer a warm net, but had transformed into countless cold, rough, barbed vines that instantly strangled the throats of everyone in the room. This overwhelming domination, exclusive to an apex predator, forced Gabriel and the others to their knees uncontrollably. Even taking a breath became a luxury. Alfred raised a black handgun with one hand, his eyes as cold as looking at dead objects. He pulled the trigger with practiced ease. Bang, bang, bang. Muzzle flashes lit up the room. Gabriel fell before he could even let out a scream. Confirming the threat was neutralized, Alfred's terrifying domination instantly retracted. He took large strides to the bed, bending his towering frame to pull Cole tightly into his arms. His trembling arms squeezed fiercely, his red-rimmed eyes filled with the sheer terror of almost losing him. The ticking of the machinery echoed in the quiet hospital room. No vital organs were damaged. The child is fine, but the patient is severely lacking pheromone soothing and marking. 2 hours later, the medication in the IV dripped at a steady pace. Cole leaned against the headboard, his face ashen. Alfred squatted by the bed like a massive dog that knew it did wrong. His profound eyes glued to Cole's face, his voice reverting back to that familiar, captivating gentleness. "Cole, how do you feel now? Are you hungry?" Cole closed his exhausted eyes, his jawline pulled taut. He squeezed a single word through his teeth, "Out." Alfred's pupils trembled violently. He stood up in silence, fishing a golden capsule from his pocket. His long fingers squeezed it hard until it broke, gently placing it on the nightstand. "Okay, I know you need time." As his figure vanished through the door, a rich, warm freesia scent flowed out from the shattered capsule shell like quicksilver, gently wrapping around Cole's glands. The temples that had been throbbing violently from pregnancy, anxiety miraculously calmed down. Cole stared intently at that capsule. This was the thing he'd been eating every day, told it was folic acid and nutritional medicine. Screw nutritional medicine. That was high-concentration pheromone extract. It was a marked substitute, and Alpha would leave behind to soothe their delicate Omega. Cole let out a cold, utterly absurd laugh. He, a wildly arrogant S-rank Alpha, was actually being kept in a cage like an Omega, wearing the other man's clothes to build a nest, coaxed into eating pheromones disguised as vitamins, and even, with trembling hands, he slowly covered his no longer flat stomach. The nausea, the vomiting, the backaches, the inexplicable tears. If Alfred wasn't an Omega, the only thing that could make an Alpha pregnant was the legendary monster, an Enigma. What fragile, pitiful little white flower. What heavily in-debt college dropout. The gender was fake, the identity was fake. This gentle trap overflowing with freesia was, from start to finish, a completely absurd theatrical play, meant to string him along. Cold saline dripped onto the floor from the ripped IV tube with a tick-tock. The moment he recovered a shred of strength, Cole, his face pale, ripped the IV needle from the back of his hand. He threw off the covers and took large strides out of the hospital room. The moment the door slid open, over a dozen pairs of cold eyes hidden behind sunglasses turned to him in unison. Immediately after, that familiar, warm, damp scent of freesia rushed into his nose. Alfred stepped out from behind the wall of men, his gaze instantly locking onto the needle prick on Cole's hand that was oozing red. "Cole, your IV isn't finished." His voice remained soft, yet carried an unquestionable authority. "What the hell is this?" Cole ground his back teeth, anger blazing in his eyes. "Protecting your safety. I don't need it." Cole shoved past a bodyguard blocking his way. "Get out of my way." "Where are you going?" "You're asking me where I'm going?" Cole halted, turning back with an utterly absurd sneer, his jaw tight. "Home, obviously. Am I supposed to stay here and be played for a fool?" Alfred's towering frame stepped forward quickly, his broad hand wrapping firmly around Cole's wrist. His handsome face was written with worry and helplessness, his long lashes lowering. "Cole, sorry. I know I lied to you, and you hate me for it. You can hit me or yell at me all you want, but your body hasn't recovered yet. Can we just go back to bed first? I'll explain everything to you." "I don't need an explanation, and I don't want to hear it." Cole violently shook off his hand, the corners of his eyes flashing red with anger and instinctual grievance. "I don't want anything to do with you ever again." "That's not possible." Alfred's tone darkened instantly. "Who the hell are you to say that?" Cole arched his brow, pointing a mocking finger at his nose. "Orphaned parents. Forced to drop out? A fragile, pitiful, traditional Omega? You liar. What part of you is actually real?" "My love for you is real." Alfred's gaze burned brightly, refusing to back down. Your love for me is real. Cole felt as though he had just heard the biggest joke in the world. His chest heaved as he spat out the words coldly. Love you scammed out of me, right? If I had known you weren't an Omega, wasn't some pitiful little thing, there's no way in hell I would have ever liked you. I wouldn't have even given you a second glance. Those words hit like a sledgehammer. Alfred's eyes instantly turned red, a shattered darkness fracturing in his profound gaze. All this time, do you really feel nothing for me at all? Nothing. Absolutely nothing, Cole denied without hesitation. The two locked eyes intensely. The air seemed to freeze for a few seconds. I don't believe you, Alfred spat out coldly. Believe it or not, let me out. Cole's patience was completely depleted. Gritting his teeth, he took a deep breath, clenched his fist, and swung straight at that face. At the very moment he threw the punch, an utterly terrifying scent of freesia crashed down like a tsunami. The scent was no longer a warm, soft net, but transformed into the crushing water pressure of a 1,000-ton deep-sea abyss. With absolute ruling domination, it instantly crushed the citrus scent's feeble resistance. Cole's body went completely slack, his legs losing all sensation. Taking advantage of the momentum, Alfred opened his arms and securely caught the trembling body against his chest. Suppressing me? You dare use your pheromones to suppress me? Who the hell do you think you are? Cole leaned against the broad chest, panting through gritted teeth. The gland on the back of his neck shuddered frantically under the Enigma's aura. Alfred supported the back of his head with one hand, lowering his gaze to meet those fury-filled eyes. The gentle mask was completely torn away, exposing the apex predator's forcefulness and madness. I tricked you. You started it. Who was the one who lost control during their rut, barged into my room, and pinned me down? Cole's pupils shook, his momentum deflating by half. Let me go. Alfred lowered his brows, capturing those rambling lips in a fierce kiss. The next second, he turned his head, pressing his scorching lips against Cole's completely defenseless nape. Ah, that hurts like hell. I'll kill you? Sharp canines pierced the fragile gland without mercy. Warm crimson fluid seeped out as a high concentration of freesia pheromones was forcefully injected. Cole instantly stiffened like a board. His brain felt as though it had been instantly emptied, his vision blurring into a sea of white light. All he could do was act like a thoroughly tamed cat, resting obediently on the Enigma's shoulder, allowing that calloused, massive hand to stroke down his spine over and over in comfort. 2 hours later, the hospital room was permeated with the cloying, sweet scent of freesia from a thorough soothing mixed with a hint of pitiful citrus. With a dark expression, Cole stiffly buttoned the collar of his hospital gown all the way to the top, trying to hide the humiliating bite mark. The nurse beside him trembled as she reinserted his IV needle. Henry rolled the equipment in, not even daring to glance at the bouncer like Alfred standing nearby. The hand holding the probe shook like a leaf. The vitals are mostly back to normal. Moving forward, it's best if the father provides more pheromone soothing. It's good for both the adult and the baby. Having said his piece, he didn't even bother wiping his sweat before fleeing with his machine. Where's my phone? Cole snapped irritably. Alfred immediately handed over the phone, pulling up a chair to sit by the bed himself. The 6'3" Apex Enigma was currently expertly opening a thermos to cool down some lean pork porridge, using a small knife to patiently slice an apple into perfectly even cubes. While typing out a safe and sound message in his club group chat, Cole puffed out his cheeks and opened his mouth. A spoonful of perfectly warm porridge was accurately fed to him. He chewed aggressively while typing rapidly, coming back soon. Jim's messages flooded the screen. Boss, did you see the news? Gabriel got taken out by a rival. Hez done for. Cole paused, glancing from the corner of his eye at the dutiful wife, who was lowering his long eyelashes, meticulously cutting the apple. Serves him right. Cole replied coldly. Jim immediately followed up with a bombardment of exclamation marks. Boss Cole. I found out. I got info on your Omega. Wait, no, he might not be your Omega. I mean, he's not an Omega at all. Then what is he? Cole frowned. Hez an Enigma, the sole heir to the richest family in the city. Enigma? Sole heir to the richest family? Cole's eyes widened, his brain short-circuiting. Right at that moment, a perfectly peeled apple cube was brought to his lips. Out of sheer reflex, Cole opened his mouth and bit down, turning his head to stare intently at Alfred. Want more? Alfred's eyes were so tender they could drip water. Not eating. Cole scolded somewhat incoherently, though the apple in his mouth crunched loudly. Watching him act so stubbornly, Alfred's throat bobbed, letting out a low, husky, and deeply euphoric chuckle. Just then, two men in black suits pushed the door open, bowing respectfully. "Boss, Gabriel's, people are here." The old patriarch came personally. "Hez downstairs right now, saying he hopes you can be the bigger person, give him some face, and spare their lives." The smirk Cole had prepared for a good show instantly dropped. So they weren't here for revenge. They were here to get on their knees and beg for mercy. Alfred stood up, pulling out a wet wipe to elegantly clean his fingertips. The eyes that were gently feeding him a second ago frosted over the moment he turned around. His voice was soft, but carried a chilling, decisive ruthlessness. "Gabriel's family. Yes, it's time to teach them a lesson." He turned back, instantly switching back to deep affection mode when looking at Cole. "Cole, rest well. If you need anything, get the hell out." Cole grabbed a pillow and hurled it at him. Alfred didn't dodge. He caught the pillow firmly, set it aside with a helpless yet doting smile, turned around, and left the room with his massive entourage of bodyguards. The cold blue light of the phone screen illuminated Cole's tense face. On the screen, Jim's messages kept firing like a machine gun. Alfred's grandfather kicked the bucket. He just took over, and all the illegitimate children have been purged. The ones meant for the asylum went to the asylum, and the rest were shipped off to dig mud in India. Boss Cole, an Enigma is a mutated monster at the absolute top of the food chain. Immune to pheromones, capable of disguise, and they can even mark alphas. They can make alphas pregnant. His power is too vast. You just have to swallow this bitter pill. Don't provoke him. Swallow this bitter pill? Cole sneered, grinding his back teeth. Before, when he dug into the guy's background, he couldn't find a single trace. Now, suddenly, he even knows the itinerary for the ones sent to dig mud in India. This play of showing mercy after wielding power, of playing hard to get, it didn't take a genius to know it was bait intentionally dropped by a certain Enigma in sheep's clothing. With a sharp snap, Cole unhesitatingly yanked out the newly emptied IV needle and hammered the call button at the head of the bed. The bodyguard outside immediately poked his head in, nerves tight. "What's wrong? Do you need a doctor? Tell your boss to get his ass over here. Now." In less than 10 minutes, rushed footsteps echoed down the hall. Alfred pushed the door open. The dominant scent of freesia that had securely guarded the room like invisible chains was now slightly chaotic due to its owner's anxiety. "Cole, you called for me?" Cole sat on the edge of the bed, his eyes like ice-dipped blades. "Didn't you say I could hit you or yell at you? Retract your suppressing pheromones. Now." Alfred's towering frame stiffened slightly, an undisguised worry flashing in his deep eyes. "Cut the crap," Cole scoffed. "I care about my own body more than you do. Besides, there are your attack dogs all over the place outside. Do you think I can sprout wings and fly out of the hospital?" "Okay." The moment the words left his mouth, the heavy, overbearing freesia scent pressing on the back of Cole's neck, like 1,000 tons of deep-sea pressure, vanished completely like a receding tide. The air thinned out again. The ES-rank citrus pheromones within Cole, suppressed for so long, broke free like a caged beast. Carrying an agonizing, bone-chilling sourness, they instantly swept through the vacuum of the hospital room. Cole stepped barefoot onto the freezing floor, walking step by step toward Alfred. He rolled his wrists, cracking his knuckles loudly. The next second, the wind howled from his punch. Bang! A vicious right hook landed squarely on Alfred's perfect jaw. The sheer impact violently threw Alfred's head to the side. When he turned back, the corner of his mouth, usually carrying that innocent smile, was split open, seeping striking crimson fluid. But what made Cole's pupils shrink was that a normal alpha would have been sent flying by that punch. The Enigma monster before him remained rooted to the spot, steady as a mountain. "You can take a hit, huh?" Cole was completely enraged. He unleashed a merciless barrage of left and right hooks. The dull thuds of flesh connecting with flesh echoed in the hospital room. Then, he delivered a flying kick, slamming hard into the back of Alfred's knees. The lofty, high and mighty soul heir, the apex predator, finally let out a muffled groan of pain, dropping heavily to one knee on the freezing floor, looking entirely pathetic. Cole's chest heaved violently, the edges of his eyes flushed with rage and grievance. He abruptly bent down, grabbing Alfred's collar in a death grip and yanking the man up toward him. "Even if I was the one who provoked you first, why the hell didn't you tell me I was pregnant?" Cole ground his teeth, his voice trembling with extreme fury. "You fed me those nutritional pills disguised as folic acid every day. You used your pheromones to trick me. You just wanted the thing inside my stomach to get too big to remove, forcing me to give birth, didn't you? You didn't care about what I wanted at all." Bang! Another heavy punch slammed into Alfred's cheekbone. Alfred's head slumped to the side. He submissively absorbed all the violence, not even raising a hand to defend himself. If it weren't for the pregnancy, Cole's eyes completely reddened. He straddled the broad, muscular body, both hands firmly gripping the man's collar, his voice hoarse and wronged. "My suppressing pheromones wouldn't have malfunctioned. I wouldn't have been mocked to my face by that piece of trash, Gabriel. I was almost sickened to death by those alphas under his command." Fists carrying heavy gusts of wind rained down once again. "I'm sorry." "Cole, I'm sorry." The colossal figure beneath him murmured hoarsely and weakly. Those profound, unfathomable eyes of Alfred's were now welling with shattered tears. Mixed with the crimson on his mouth, they slid pathetically down the high bridge of his nose. Though the Frisia pheromones had been forcefully retracted, that almost pleading, damp sensation still lingered in Cole's perception, like a massive dog desperately licking its master's shoes in sheer despair. Cole's fist, raised midair, suddenly halted. Looking at the bruised and swollen face, his fingertips trembled uncontrollably. Finally, he let out a long, heavy breath, his rigid shoulders suddenly slumping. He pushed off his knees and stood up from Alfred. On the floor, Alfred gasped for air, his chest heaving violently. Sticky red streaks slid down his cheeks. Those affectionate eyes struggled to blink twice before his eyelids drooped, and his head rolled to the side. He had completely passed out. "Boss!" The door was shoved open violently. The bodyguards who had been acting tough outside rushed in. Seeing their Enigma master lying unconscious in a pool of red, they were scared out of their wits, a chorus of sharp gasps filling the air. They turned their heads stiffly, looking in absolute terror at Cole, who was standing there in a thin hospital gown, eyes red, but exuding overwhelming arrogance. Cole gave them a cold, sideways glare. "What are you staring at?" "Waiting for me to pay you to collect the body." The bodyguards snapped out of it. Stumbling over themselves, they yelled for a doctor. Sweating profusely, they scrambled to carry their almighty boss out of the room. The hallway fell back into dead silence. Cole gave a cold humph, turned around, and swiftly climbed back into the hospital bed, pulling the covers over himself. Even though the needle prick on the back of his hand still throbbed, beating up that punching bag had finally released the suffocating rage in his chest. Today, he had returned that bitter pill in full. The hospital door clicked shut. Leaning against the headboard, Cole grabbed his phone and expertly booted up a game. After winning 2 rounds, his mood was finally a bit smoother. During the rest of his hospital stay, Cole perfectly embodied the phrase weaponized pregnancy. Whenever he felt that suffocating frustration bubbling up or felt wronged due to pregnancy hormone fluctuations, he wouldn't hesitate to call his Enigma master in to vent. Alfred never dodged. And so, the billionaire heir who had just purged his family with an iron fist, intimidating both the underworld and the business world, walked in and out of the hospital room every day with a face sporting fresh colors over unhealed wounds. Ribs were broken, set, and broken again. Eventually, the sunglasses-wearing bodyguards outside got so used to it that they expertly handed over ice packs and painkillers the moment their boss walked out from a beating. Discharge day. Alfred drove Cole back to the club himself. The car parked steadily at the entrance. Just as Cole was about to unbuckle his seatbelt and get out, the man beside him, who still had an eye-catching ring of gauze wrapped around his head and his left arm in a cast, suddenly leaned over. The rich scent of Frisia instantly flooded the cabin. Alfred used his remaining right hand to grip Cole's wrist tightly, turning his head to press his scorching lips directly onto Cole's. It was a deep kiss that carried a predatory edge, yet was gentle to the extreme, filled with an Enigma's instinctual need to soothe and cherish. Cole didn't struggle. He kept his eyes closed until his lungs had drawn in enough of that reassuring Frisia pheromone. Then his eyes snapped open, and he bit down hard on Alfred's lower lip. Hiss. Alfred backed away in pain, lifting a thumb to wipe the crimson bead from the corner of his mouth. With a cold face, Cole turned to push the car door open, only to be caught again by that warm, massive hand. Cole, wait. What now? Cole snapped impatiently, turning back. His knuckles were throbbing, and he really wanted to throw another punch at this unkillable monster. But Alfred simply lowered his profound eyes. Using his good hand, he meticulously pressed the seatbelt release for Cole, then smoothed out his slightly wrinkled collar. All done. You can go. Cole froze for a second, let out a cold snort, and slammed the car door shut behind him. Outside the club's main doors. Pop! Pop! Confetti cannons fired, sending colorful ribbons drifting through the air. Jim led a bunch of lackeys, standing in 2 neat rows. They bowed in unison. Welcome back, boss. Cole patted Jim on the shoulder with a smile and strode inside. Jim followed closely, eagerly reporting, Boss, while you were away, our yacht club, golf course, and KTV have been pulling in record profits. Everyone's just waiting for you to come back so we can throw a celebration banquet. Halfway through his speech, Jim's gaze paused on Cole, and he scratched his head in confusion. But boss, have you been eating a bit too well lately? Why does it feel like you've thickened up a bit? Cole walked to the sofa and sat down, casually flipping open the financial reports. His tone was flat. I didn't get fat. I'm pregnant. The air went dead silent. Everyone in the club seemed to have been put on pause, their eyes collectively locked onto Cole. Boss, that joke is a bit too dry. Ha ha ha. Jim offered a hollow laugh to warm up the room. Yeah, the boss is a pure-blooded alpha. How could an alpha get pregnant? Ha ha. The lackeys chimed in. It's not a joke. Cole turned a page in the report, not even looking up. Jim's laughter abruptly died. He blinked hard, his brain rapidly flashing through several words. Pregnant. Taking folic acid. The boss Omega. Enigma. He opened his mouth, swallowed hard, his voice trembling like a leaf in the wind. See congratulations, boss, on the little air. The surrounding lackeys simultaneously gasped and took a collective half-step back. Amidst this bizarre atmosphere, the deputy to Cole's father walked in, holding a gold-stamped invitation. Young master, the deputy presented the invitation respectfully. The old man asked you to prepare for Miss Camille's charity gala a few days ago. You were away then, so he specifically ordered today that you must attend Miss Camille's personal exhibition in formal attire. A blind date. Cole arched an eyebrow. Seeing him not take it, the deputy lowered his voice and continued conveying the message. The old man also said he doesn't care what kind of entanglement you had with that grassroots Omega, but from today on, you must cut it off completely. Otherwise, he will personally intervene and throw that ignorant Omega out of the country. Cole let out a scoff and tossed the report onto the table. I can't go to the exhibition. I'm pregnant. The deputy finally noticed the eerie silence in the hall and gave a dry laugh. You have indeed gotten a bit rounder, but this excuse, 6 months along, can't terminate. Cole leaned back against the sofa. The deputy's face shifted slightly. Young master, I don't know what kind of joke you're playing, but this is the second time you've deflected. The old man gave absolute orders. If you don't go, I can't report back. Just repeat my exact words to him. 10 minutes later, Cole's phone vibrated violently. Hello, Dad, Cole answered lazily. Yeah, I'm pregnant, no joke. You don't need to waste effort looking for a daughter-in-law. You've just been promoted straight to Grandpa. He held the phone further away, dodging the roar coming through the receiver, and picked his ear. I'm not talking nonsense. I'll have someone courier the ultrasound and pregnancy checkup reports to you in a bit. The call disconnected in a furious rage on the other end. That night, in the living room of the family estate, Cole's father held the ultrasound showing the fetal outline, his hands shaking like he had Parkinson's. You're really pregnant? Whose is it? That grassroots Omega's. Cole held a cup of hot milk, his face completely unchanged. You. The old man clutched his chest. If you don't want to say, fine. An alpha, getting pregnant? This is completely absurd. Being a seasoned veteran who had survived the turbulent business world for years, the old man took a few deep breaths, forcefully suppressed his shock, and let out a long sigh. You'll stay at home for a while. Get plenty of rest and stop running around. If you need anything, tell the butler. Thanks, Dad. Cole took his milk and slowly made his way upstairs to sleep. Life seemed to return to a peaceful rhythm. Eating, meetings, reading reports, sleeping. Except, every morning, Jim would sneakily hand over a small bottle of pheromone extract disguised as vitamins. "Boss, Alfred sent someone to drop this off." Besides the medicine, anonymous packages were occasionally delivered to the office. Sometimes it was a thermos of warm stew. Other times it was an orange plush toy saturated with the rich scent of freesia pheromones. Cole would verbally complain, "So annoying," only to turn around, toss the plush toy into the backseat of his car, and greedily take a huge sniff of that reassuring fragrance. One afternoon, after Jim finished his work report, he stopped at the door, testing the waters in a low voice. "Boss? That custom ring you ordered? It's ready. Do you want to go pick it up?" Cole's hand paused on the document he was flipping through. He had almost forgotten about it. That was the proposal ring he had secretly commissioned back when he thought Alfred was a poor, fragile Omega. "Bring it back." "Already paid for it," Cole replied flatly. Just as he signed the final document, his phone vibrated. An anonymous text popped up. "Cole, did you drink alcohol?" Cole remembered the 2 sips of red wine he couldn't refuse at last night's social dinner, and his anger flared up immediately. "Are you spying on me?" The other party replied instantly, "I happened to see it. How are you feeling lately? Let me come find you tonight. The last mark should have faded, and you need soothing." Cole sneered and replied, "I feel perfectly fine. Don't come. If you dare spy on me again, I'll throw away all those garbage plush toys you sent." The screen was quiet for 2 seconds before a pitiful reply popped up. "Okay." The screech of emergency brakes tore through the evening street. Cole's body pitched violently forward from the momentum. His face changed, his arms instinctively crossing to protect his slightly protruding stomach. Outside the car window, Randy, with bloodshot eyes, spread his arms like a madman who had lost his mind, shamelessly blocking the front of the car. Cole pushed the car door open with a cold expression. His tailored casual suit highlighted his tall frame as he looked down condescendingly at the pathetic figure, his tone devoid of any warmth. "If you're sick, get treated. Go die somewhere else." "You killed Gabriel?" "You!" Randy screamed hysterically. Cole rolled his eyes in sheer exasperation. Too lazy to waste breath, he pulled out his phone and held down the voice record button. "Jim, go collect the debt Randy owes, with interest. He doesn't have the cash. Then seize his house and furniture as collateral." Looking at Randy's instantly pale, panicked face, Cole arched a brow arrogantly, speaking coldly. "My money doesn't fall from the sky. If you can't pay, get ready to sleep on the street." Randy completely panicked, dragging out ancient history to morally blackmail him. "H, how can you be so heartless? My mom used to hold you when you were a kid." Heh, Cole let out an undisguised scoff, his eyes filled with utmost contempt. "Is your brain connected to your small intestine? My dad paid money. Your mom worked as a maid. That was her job. Instead of playing the White Lotus here, you'd be better off figuring out where to beg for your next meal." He took a sudden step forward, his powerful aura forcing Randy to stumble backward. "And another thing. Gabriel died because you were fooling around, making him jealous and crazy. Rather than saying he brought it upon himself, it'd be more accurate to say you killed him with your own hands." Those words were like a red-hot iron brand, completely burning through Randy's final thread of reason. His pupils shrank. He let out a desperate scream and lunged wildly, shoving Cole as hard as he could. "This is all your fault." In the right lane, a truck was speeding toward them, honking its horn. In that split second, an explosive wave of freesia scent erupted in the air like a suddenly erected wall of bulletproof glass. A towering black figure lunged from the side like a panther. Arms like iron clamps securely pulled Cole into a tight embrace, taking him into a rapid double roll across the rough asphalt. Thud, a heavy sound of bone and flesh making impact. Within that broad, solid chest, Cole looked up in a daze, meeting Alfred's taut jawline and ashen lips, visibly contorted in pain. "Alfred, are you okay?" The apex Enigma was sweating bullets from the pain, yet he managed to force out his usual gentle, innocent smile. "If my legs were a little shorter, it probably wouldn't have hit me." Cole's breath hitched. His gaze followed the direction Alfred pointed. On that long suit pant leg, stark red fluid was rapidly soaking through the high-end fabric, dropping onto the ground, a shocking sight. The examination revealed a minor fracture, and the bleeding was from severe skin abrasions, requiring 11 stitches. Cole slammed a black card onto the nightstand, expressionless. Hardship pay for playing the hero. He turned to leave. A large hand with pronounced knuckles, still taped with medical adhesive, gently tugged on the hem of Cole's shirt. "Cole, I don't want this." Cole looked back. On the hospital bed, the all-powerful billionaire heir was pale, his thick eyelashes fluttering pitifully, looking exactly like a giant dog left out in the rain. "Drop the innocent act." Cole pulled his hand back forcefully. "I'm not acting." Alfred pressed his pale lips tight, his voice so weak it sounded like he would stop breathing at any moment. "Cole, it really hurts. I'm not a doctor. If it hurts, endure it." Cole shot back coldly, but looking at that completely bloodless face, his feet felt glued to the floor. "Can you stay with me for a little while?" "Just 10 minutes. 5 minutes. Cole dragged a chair over with a dark face and sat down heavily. Goal achieved. The giant dog on the hospital bed instantly pushed his luck. Propping up his upper body, he expertly grabbed Cole's arm, pulled it tightly against his chest, affectionately pressed his cheek against Cole's warm forearm, and comfortably closed his eyes. In an instant, an incredibly dense scent of freesia poured out like warm water breaking through a dam. The scent shed all its coldness and aggression, turning into an invisible thick blanket, carrying a damp warmth and extreme enveloping comfort. Domineering yet gentle, it seeped into Cole's pores, ironing out every inch of the constant tight anxiety brought on by his pregnancy. Coaxed by the freesia, the crisp citrus scent slipped out unconsciously. The two scents tangled and intertwined ambiguously in the cramped hospital room, so comfortable it sent a tingle deep into the bones. By the time Cole snapped out of this ultimate physiological soothing, they had long surpassed the agreed-upon time. He abruptly pulled his arm back and stood up. "Cole." Alfred immediately grabbed him again. The corners of his eyes flushed with a sickly red, his voice soft enough to drip water. "I'm all alone at home. Could you come visit me later?" Cole laughed out of pure exasperation. "Are the battalion of bodyguards and servants at your house not people?" "They're just hired help." Alfred lowered his eyelashes, mumbling quietly. "But you're the only one I trust." Cole let out a cold, highly absurd scoff, looking down condescendingly at the Enigma who was full of lies. "Trust me? Fine. Then next time, I'll bring you a bowl of poisoned porridge." "Okay." Alfred quietly curled his eyes, a look of extreme satisfaction blooming on his pale face. "Psycho." Cole rolled his eyes dramatically, spun around, and took large strides out of the hospital room without looking back. On the kitchen stove in the villa, a clay pot bubbled, simmering a rich beef stew. Cole snatched the packed, bland white porridge from the servant's hands, guiltily interrupting his father's fussing. "This porridge isn't for me. I have a friend who is sick. I'm going to visit them." With that, he grabbed the thermos and fled. The phone screen flickered with a cold light. Jim's voice on the other end carried a trace of fear. "Boss, we found Randy, but has already stopped breathing." Cole hung up the phone, completely expressionless. Swift, decisive, leaving no survivors. That was indeed the style of that Enigma monster. Stopping just outside the hospital room, Cole heard his father's polite, slightly fawning laughter drifting through the half-open door. His father was handing a business plan for the algorithm patent of the Tianlan project with both hands to Alfred, who was resting against the pillows. And that ruthless billionaire heir was currently draped in his gentle disguise, politely deflecting. "The proposal is good, but I'll need to discuss it with my team." Cole cursed under his breath. Gripping the thermos tightly, he was just about to slip away when a sharp-eyed bodyguard at the corner of the hallway suddenly bowed a full 90 degrees, his voice booming like thunder. "Boss, Mr. Cole is here to see you." The announcement was like a sudden thunderclap. The door was pulled open from the inside. Cole's father stared in absolute bewilderment at his son standing in the doorway, awkwardly holding a comical pink thermos. The eyes of Alfred on the hospital bed instantly lit up astonishingly bright. The freesia scent, which had been intentionally suppressed, now rushed toward the door like an eager, warm tide, intimately winding around Cole's ankles, infusing even the cold air around them with a touch of sweet dampness. Cole, the apex predator, was so excited, he nearly snapped the cast on his leg. "I didn't realize Mr. Alfred knew my son." The father's suspicious gaze darted back and forth between the two. "Just casual friends." Cole kept his face tight, forcing down the tingling shiver crawling up his nape from the freesia scent's tease. I'm here to suck up to him, just like you. The porridge is delivered. I'm leaving. Cole. Alfred urgently sat up straight. Those deep eyes were brimming with intense grievance and pleading. It's so rare for you to visit me. Can't you stay just a little longer? In this suffocating moment of surging undercurrents, the door was pushed open once again. Henry walked in carrying a fruit basket, completely oblivious to the bizarre battlefield-like atmosphere in the room. He flashed a broad grin. Oh, you guys made up? Perfect timing, Cole. You have a prenatal checkup next week, and we need the baby's father's pheromones to cooperate. Alfred, make sure you make time to go with him. Dead silence. A deathly stillness. Cole's father's eyes went wide, his eyeballs practically dropping to his feet. He mechanically turned his stiff neck, staring fixedly at the man on the bed, his voice trembling like a leaf in the wind. This baby. Is his? Yeah, has an Enigma. Cole closed his eyes, throwing caution to the wind and spitting out the truth. The polite veneer on his father's face vaporized instantly. He spun around, snatched the business plan back from the table, his face as dark as the bottom of a pot. Mr. Alfred, we've had internal adjustments. Let's forget about the collaboration. With that, he grabbed Cole's wrist and started dragging him out. Wait a second, Dad. Cole pulled back against his father's grip. He pulled the business plan from those trembling hands and slapped it back onto Alfred's nightstand with a smack. The crisp citrus scent broke through the freesia blanket, carrying an undeniable hardness. Cole looked down condescendingly at the man on the bed whose eyes were darting around, a mocking curve playing on his lips. Money that should be made still needs to be made. Since I've already been scammed once, I can't exactly throw away money that's delivered to my door. In the car on the way back, the neon lights flashed rapidly across the sharp angles of Cole's face. What exactly is going on between you two? His father asked, lowering his voice. I lost control during my rut and slept with him. His father paused, his chin instantly rising in pride. That's my son. So what do you plan to do next? I don't know. I want to go home and drink beef stew. The street view rolled backwards. The father let out a long sigh, falling into his memories. You were just a brash kid back then, acting out your teenage rebellion, fighting everywhere. One time, you saved a beta and got slashed, had to get 10 stitches without anesthesia. I was so mad at you I could have died. And now, you're about to be a father. Cole guiltily scratched the back of his head. Saved a beta? Fragments of memory rapidly pieced together in his mind. He suddenly recalled that scrawny little beta wearing black-rimmed glasses. The guy had blushed and stuttered out a confession to him, and Cole, in all his arrogant glory, had waved his hand dismissively, declaring, I only like Omegas. Black-rimmed glasses, a frail beta, mutated genes, an Enigma, the billionaire heir, the deliberate approach, disguised as a fragile Omega. The cabin was quiet, save for the white noise of the tires on the asphalt. Dad! Cole leaned back against the leather seat, his fingertips unconsciously tracing his slightly protruding stomach, his voice a bit hoarse. If someone lied to me, and even forced my hand, but he admitted he was wrong, and I've gotten my revenge. Tell me, should I forgive him? Did you take a loss? I did? Cole lowered his eyelashes. But, technically, I'm the one who provoked him first. His father turned his head, looked at his bewildered son, and fished a coin out of his suit pocket, handing it over. Flip the coin. Let it decide. There are some things even a dad can't help you with. Cole took the warm metal piece. He took a deep breath, his thumb applying force. Ping! The coin spun rapidly in the air, tracing a silver arc. Accompanied by the crisp scent of citrus and the warm freesia scent from his memories, it landed securely in his palm. On the day of the prenatal checkup, Alfred accompanied Cole in a wheelchair. Sunlight filtered through the blinds, slicing warm, dappled patterns across the floor. Alfred balanced steadily on one leg, sitting on the edge of the wide, soft bed in the resting room. With a smile so gentle, it almost looked like he was fawning. He looked at Cole, who was sitting on the sofa. Cole, thank you for the porridge. It was delicious. Don't flatter yourself. Cole stared fixedly at the game on his phone screen, shooting back coldly. The housekeeper made that out of leftover rice. Your leftovers? The apex predator wasn't bothered in the slightest. His smile deepened, his voice laced with a spine-tingling satisfaction. That's delicious too. He patted the soft mattress next to him, coaxing softly. Cole, come sit on the bed. The sofa is bad for your back. Cole let out a massive yawn. Due to an operational error, his character on the screen died instantly. His sleep had been torn to shreds by pregnancy hormones, leaving his lower back in constant throbbing pain. He glanced at the bed, which looked incredibly comfortable, then at the human body pillow radiating highly concentrated, soothing freesia pheromones. Finally unable to resist his basic instincts, he scooted over with a cold face. The moment he leaned against the headboard, that heavy, warm, incredibly secure scent of freesia washed over him like a tide, thoroughly drowning him. The crisp citrus scent didn't even have time to mount a token resistance before it was gently enveloped and merged. Cole's eyelids grew heavier and heavier, his breathing gradually turning long and even. Confirming the person in his arms was completely fast asleep, the fawning smile on Alfred's face instantly vanished. He lowered his eyes, a bottomless obsession and a sickly paranoid darkness surging within them. His large knobby hand gently caressed the back of Cole's neck, his thumb affectionately brushing against the old faint scar near the gland, partially hidden by hair. Then, that hand moved slowly downward. Through the fabric of his clothes, it rested over Cole's slightly protruding stomach with absolute devotion. Cole was woken up by the faint rustling of paper. He opened his eyes in a daze, finding himself comfortably tucked into Alfred's broad neck. And this apex Enigma was holding up a black and white ultrasound scan with one hand. Those eyes, which usually flickered with calculation and madness, were now incredibly, unbelievably soft. "Cole, you're awake." Alfred excitedly held the paper up to Cole's face. His voice trembled slightly from sheer emotion. "Look, it's the baby. Here's a hand. And a foot." He pointed at the blurry blob of light and shadow, acting as if he could actually reach through the black and white pixels and touch that vibrant little life. Looking at the ultrasound, the defensive thorns Cole had thrown up due to being woken instantly melted away. His heart felt like it had been soaked in warm lemon water, brimming with a strange, aching softness. The unflipped coin in his pocket seemed to no longer need an answer. "It's just a black smudge. How can you tell that's a hand?" Cole mumbled stubbornly. Before he could even finish his sentence, Alfred suddenly froze. He abruptly dropped the ultrasound and pulled Cole tightly into his arms. His massive hands clamped down on Cole's back, and a noticeable sob broke his voice. "Cole, I'm sorry. I was too selfish. I was terrified that once the lie was exposed, you would leave me. That's why I used such extreme methods. The baby is the only button I could fasten to tie us together with my own hands." The towering frame trembled. Scalding tears fell onto Cole's neck, astonishingly hot. Cole was squeezed so tight he could barely breathe. He forcefully pushed away the furry head. Taking a deep breath, his crisp citrus pheromones carried an unquestionable resolve. "The past is in the past. But if you ever dare lie to me again, I can cut that button off too. One father is enough for the baby." Alfred's pupils shrank rapidly, utter panic flashing in his eyes. He grabbed onto Cole tightly once again, shaking his head frantically, laughing uncontrollably through his tears. "I won't. There will absolutely never be a next time. Get off. You're getting snot all over my custom shirt. Okay?" Alfred broke into a smile through his tears, obediently letting go. When the baby turned 1, the two held their wedding. Amidst a rain of white freesia petals, the massive diamond ring Cole had bought early on, originally intended for his fragile Omega, was finally slipped onto the ring finger of this 6'3" apex Enigma. A drunk Cole was hauled up the stairs by Alfred like a toddler, coaxed and carried until he was tossed into a massive bathtub filled with warm water. "Where's my little heir?" Cole mumbled, pushing himself up on weak arms, splashing the water in dissatisfaction. Dad just picked him up. Alfred half knelt by the tub, his eyes darkening as he stared at the pale skin faintly visible beneath the water. His voice was completely hoarse as he deftly ripped off his own tie with one hand. "I'm coming in to wash you. Why am I the only one not wearing clothes?" The drunk Alpha protested, completely oblivious. "All right." The Enigma chuckled softly, easily complying. The water violently sloshed over the edges of the tub. The scents of freesia and citrus tangled desperately in the humid, steamy bathroom. By the time the bath ended in the middle of the night, Cole was thoroughly sobered up, left with nothing but an aching waist and a body covered in red marks. The next morning, the sunlight was blinding. Cole pulled open the nightstand drawer looking for a bandage to cover the damning evidence on his neck. but his fingertips accidentally brushed against a yellowed photograph lying face down. He flipped it over. It was himself at 17, arrogant, caught in his rebellious phase, wearing a school uniform, with a bandage stuck to his face from saving someone. Slipping from the folds of the photo was a crumpled piece of stationery. The handwriting was timid and delicate. I finally confessed to him today. He rejected me. Said he only likes Omegas. Sob, I guess I'll never be able to stand by his side. Because I'm a beta. Holding the yellowed paper, Cole arched a brow in surprise, turning to look at the man sleeping soundly beside him. Having taken off those clunky black-rimmed glasses and shed his youthful timidity, that scrawny little beta who used to stutter during a confession had gone through genetic mutation and a secondary presentation, growing into the broad-shouldered, deep-featured, ruthless enigma he was today. Fate had come full circle. The roles of hunter and prey had completely reversed. Looking at the face that, even in sleep, tightly held onto his fingers, Cole's citrus pheromones quietly slipped out, gently soothing the man. He couldn't help but let out a soft laugh. Folding the paper that bore those ancient tear stains, he carefully tucked it back into the deepest corner of the drawer. And with that, the story comes to an end. Cole as a character perfectly captures what it means to be unapologetically badass on the outside, yet an absolute softie at heart. He is fiercely responsible, straightforward, and loves just as fiercely as he hates. Upon discovering his pregnancy and the utter deception by the man sharing his bed, his fury is raw, explosive, and devastating. But his most endearing trait is his complete lack of melodrama after thoroughly thrashing the guy to vent his frustrations. Once he realizes the depth of Alfred's devotion in risking his life to protect him, Cole doesn't hesitate to slip that prepared diamond ring right onto his deceiver's finger. Alfred, on the other hand, is the ultimate wild card of the story, serving as a masterclass in extreme double standards. His iron-fisted methods and cold-hearted ruthlessness are strictly reserved for outsiders, purging his family's illegitimate rivals and surgically erasing threats like Gabriel and Randy without so much as blinking an eye. Yet, the moment he faces Cole, he devolves into a massive, boundaryless giant dog who willingly takes every hit without ever fighting back. When Cole finally uncovers that yellowed photograph and the heartbreaking confession letter buried deep in the drawer, the full-circle realization of their destiny brings an immense sense of healing. What was your favorite moment in the story?